Hello, lighting people. The electrical distribution channel plays a crucial role in so many aspects of our beloved commercial lighting industry across the US and Canada. The organization dedicated to advancing this vital channel is NAED, the National Association of Electrical Distributors. Today, we're joined by someone who truly has his finger on the pulse of that channel, Scott Costa, publisher of TED Magazine, NAED's official publication. So we thought it'd be a good idea to catch up with Scott to dive into key topics like tariffs, pricing, and the latest sentiments from electrical distributors. Scott, hello, and thank you for joining us today for 5 Big Questions.
I am ready. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get a chance to talk to you, be a part of 5 questions. So fire away. I'm ready to go.
You know, first off, you're just off of the NAED Eastern Regional Conference. It was held in Tampa. You don't look very tan, Scott, so it looks like you might have actually done some work while you were there. How was the conference, and who were the constituents there, and what did y'all dig into during the conference?
The conference was great. Again, it was in Tampa. Like you said, I was kind of busy. The first day that I was there, it was in the upper 70s. It was sunny. I walked about a quarter of a mile to go get some lunch. And as I was walking back to the meeting space, I was like, do they pay me enough to go back in the doors again? Or can I please stay outside in the sun and do my meetings out here? So that was great, but we were busy. Almost 900 people total at the event. Very buzzy, very active. It was basically meeting space on 4 floors from the lobby to the 4th floor. And there were people in every open area doing business, talking, working together, having great lively conversations. So,
and the people there, is it mostly electrical distributors and the manufacturers that serve the electrical distribution channel, or are there other types of people?
And then there's some service provider companies, who might work on ERP systems or e-commerce type things. And then there's some manufacturers reps who are there too. Smaller percentages. For the most part, you're talking about manufacturers and distributors who are in the same place at the same time.
So this is a crucial time in our industry. It's always busy and important, but this time with all this tariff stuff happening, we're recording this at the end of February, and there might be some tariff news by the time we actually publish this a day or two from now. But as we record this on Monday, the 24th, and you're on the heels of this thing, there must have been some talk, and you called it buzzy. Was there any tariff buzz there from the manufacturers or distributors that you mingled with?
Yes, both, and I'll narrow it down even further for you, Al, which will make this interesting. It's 3:20, and there's an excellent chance that by 4:15, what I say is going to change because, and I don't want to make it sound like I don't know what I'm talking about here, but every manufacturer that I talk to, every lighting manufacturer that I talk to, every distributor who carries lighting, which is 99% of them, told me that they are discussing tariffs every day. Mm-hmm. Every day, all of them. And so things, obviously policy is changing and strategies are changing and situations are changing. And so the key here, I think at this point, is remaining, flexible yet stable and being able to make the changes as everybody else is making changes with you. And so it was definitely a key topic. Everybody was talking about, what they're going to do, what they're doing. Most of the lighting manufacturers that I talked to said, we're going to eat any price increases that we have for, the distant future. We haven't really set a time frame on it, but we'll be eating what it is. I think some of it has to do with the second strategy, which is, they're obviously trying to stockpile or warehouse as much as they can right now before any changes happen, specifically with, Canada and Mexico. One lighting manufacturer said, we have almost 3 years worth of supply inside the United States.
Wow.
So we're not expecting any major change. I don't know how much warehouse space that I didn't want to get into that or get to whatever. But as a result, it seems as though what they're saying is, as long as it's not impacting us, we're not going to make it impact anybody else. And we'd like to, kind of, again, like I said, they're willing to eat any costs, any new costs that they may have as a result of tariffs, at least in the short term.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. It feels like it's a short term, hold your powder. We're not going to do anything because they probably, I think most manufacturers or distributors don't have 3 years of inventory, but maybe they have a couple months or more with this stockpiling, and they're not going to have it for every SKU. Maybe their top 200 SKUs or their top 500 SKUs or whatever their strategy is. but it just feels like we're in this waiting pattern, this holding pattern of uncertainty. And hopefully we'll get some more clarity on this, but I feel like it's just going to be a lot of like wait and see and intermittent moves until there's some finality to this, perhaps maybe very soon, but maybe middle of the year or later. So when you
right. I'll say this too. Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
I will say this. TED just did some research near the end of the last calendar year about the lighting market and expectations, and almost 90, I would say 88 to 90% of the respondents said that they expected this to be a better, at least equal to, if not better than last year in terms of lighting sales.
Good.
Distributors that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much this changes everything. I think we're just going to have to kind of play it out. But there were expectations for a high quality year in terms of lighting sales in 2025.
Well, that's good info, because I was going to ask you what the sentiments are moving forward, because it felt like, at the end of 24, it's like, the election, the uncertainty, wait and see. And now we enter 25 with all this tariff information. Yeah. So it sounds like then you're saying that there was somewhat good confidence that 25 will still be a good year, even with the current state of uncertainty.
Again, based on the research at the end of last calendar year, okay. Yes, there was a lot of optimism.
Yeah.
Has that changed much? I mean, my sample size is probably a little bit small,
sure.
In terms of the folks that I talked to, as opposed to when I did research and I heard from, 97 people or 97 different companies. I mean, as opposed to just talking at the regional conference and not catching everybody, obviously. But I mean, there's everybody's talking about there's still a backlog of jobs. Everybody's talking about that they've been optimistic, at least on the first of the year. I don't think the backlog has really disappeared. So, I think there's still some positivity in the market, even in the lighting side, obviously. And we'll see. It's something that we'll be monitoring closely, certainly in the second quarter of this year, to see if anything changes radically.
Now, you joined NAED how long ago? 10, 12 years or so?
13 years.
13.
Yeah,
wow.
13.
Great. So that was 13 years ago, 2012. So that was right in the beginning stages. The LED revolution was underway, but so you hopped into it right when you were seeing all these conversions from HID and fluorescent into LED. When you look at the market now, 13 years later, and you certainly know the channel very well, how would you describe how important lighting is compared to all the other sectors? Switchgear's been around your whole time. Telecom's been around the whole time. But now it feels like EV and infrastructure is another thing that these distributors are putting on their plate. Has lighting become less important, or lighting is still a major impact for most of the distributors in your membership?
I'm not going to understand. Lighting's important. I'm not going to, I'm going to say something now. Lighting's important. And I'm not trying to say that it's not. Data centers, baby. Yeah. It is all about the data centers right now, and everybody is into them, and everybody is into the power that it's going to need to run them, and the chips and the AI and everything. And there are some hotbeds, some areas of the country where data centers are just exploding. The United States is the data center capital of the world, and has no intention of losing that. So by comparison, lighting is behind data centers quite a bit, but so is everything else. And when you look at lighting for 2025, what we're seeing, again, that boom is sort of behind us in terms of LED, but as some folks say, there was, we were under the impression, some folks were under I won't say everybody, some folks were under the impression that these LEDs were going to last forever, and forever turned out to be 2024, because now there's a lot of retrofitting, and as you can't just take one bulb out and put another bulb in. You're pretty much taking the entire fixture out, the entire lamp out, and starting all over again. And that means maybe, again, I'm going to use like fluorescent tubes as an example, I suppose. It costs you $8 to $6 to change a fluorescent tube. What does it take you to replace a whole fixture? A couple hundred?
Yeah.
Plus labor. So, I still think that there's going to be a lot of positivity in lighting in terms of revenue and opportunities. Especially in 2025. And again, I look at Atlanta behind you. There's a lot of cranes in the air. So they're obviously doing a lot of construction projects. Every room needs a light. So I'm assuming that at least at this point, as I'm hearing about the backlogs, that lighting is going to be solid is going to continue to be solid throughout 2025.
Yeah. It seems that certain sectors are thriving, to your point, on data centers, and others might not be thriving as much, like commercial office space, for instance, especially on the new construction side. And and also data centers, it's a lot of square footage there. You need exterior lighting, but it doesn't get a lot of lighting people excited because it's very, very kind of run of the mill lighting, and it's not very elaborate.
I don't want to say simplistic, but exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right.
But hey, we had a warehouse run where high bay people were living large 5 years ago, and I think Amazon itself was responsible for like a double-digit percentage of all like square footage of industrial space, or I should say warehouse space, in the U.S. of just a few years ago. So this stuff is cyclical. So it looks like it's data centers' time to shine, and that's not coming to an end anytime soon. And then now heading back to some of the sentiments you heard last week. I caught a picture, Scott. I caught a picture of you on stage with the Iron Man, Cal Ripken Jr. of the Baltimore Orioles, Hall of Famer. Was he interviewing you on stage, or were you interviewing him on stage at the NAED?
We were talking. It was funny because, sorry, I don't know how much time you're going to give for this whole 5 questions, but now I'm going to tell a long story whether you like it or not. So, we didn't do a lot. I talked with his people before the conference. I didn't actually talk to him. Then he showed up, it was a Tuesday morning thing. So he showed up Tuesday morning at about 7:45. We were going to hit the stage at 8:30. And, there's Cal Ripken's, he's one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest baseball players in the history of baseball.
Yeah.
So he draws a crowd. And so people were around and they were talking to him. And I got like 5 seconds in to say, hey, by the way, Cal, I'm Scott. And we'll be on stage together later. And, he's like, okay, we'll talk in a minute. I said, yeah, just so you know, I treat this like I just invited you out to breakfast this morning. We're just going to have a conversation. And then more people showed up and he's talking to people and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, it's like 8:25. I'm like, do you mind if we have 5 minutes together? Because we're about to go in front of 500 people. And I just kind of want to lay out sort of. And so we did that. And he was great. I mean, he was the nicest guy in the world. He wouldn't say no to anybody, in terms of just wanted to talk about stuff and things and his family. And, he played with his brother and he played for his dad and all these other things. So it was really cool that he did that. And we did an hour on stage and talked about everything under the sun, including his charitable work. And we got off stage. We walk up, it's over now. We get off stage and he walks down the stairs. He's in front of me and he turns around and, I shake his hand and I tell him, I cannot thank you enough for, taking the time to spend with us and talk to me for an hour and share all those insights. I think it was really well received. And he looked at me, Al, I swear, he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, that was so much fun. And I'm like, I don't care what anybody else thinks of it.
No.
Cal Ripken just said he had fun hanging out with me for an hour. I'm good.
Oh, that's great.
I can sleep easy now. So he was as nice as you can as I was stunned by how great he was to everybody. Super nice guy.
That's fantastic. What a great anecdote. And I'm sure he was being sincere, Scott, because you're a pro in facilitating those types of discussions. And that's great.
He was awesome.
I'm sure he said that to his, Orioles teammates after they beat the Yankees.
Probably.
So,
right.
So
exactly.
right, that was so much fun. So in any case, that's great. And I met him briefly one time at spring training in Florida, and he's a tall guy too, isn't he?
Oh, 6'5" and a half.
Yeah. Because I'm 6'5", and he's a shortstop, which are known to be these shorter athletic guys with great agility. But he was able to do that great, and then he moved to third base, of course. But anyway, enough about baseball. Let's now just wrap this up with one thing that we've done together. With your magazine being such a leader in electrical distribution, and Inside Lighting has carved out a space in the lighting world. Tell our audience kind of some of the new arrangement that we have here, Scott.
Yeah. So here's the rub on that. And I'm not trying to, I'm deflecting the praise here, because the fact is, Al, you have way better contacts and what I call my rotation of 8 every morning. I get up in the morning, and I get into the office and I got a set of 8 websites that I need to go to get my local news, my national news, some weather, some sports, some, whatever international stuff. And you're one of my rotation of 8 that I go to every day to get some news on the industry. You do a great job of it. And again, I switched over my lighting website, Lighted. I switched that over to Electrified because electrification and again, data centers, everything was growing so quickly that I only have so many resources to do so many things. And so you and I got together and said, you know what, I would love to be able to share some resources with you because I really respect the work that you're doing and the stuff, the stuff that you're reporting and how you're reporting it. And so we talked via email back and forth, actually, to show you how formal this agreement is. But we talked about some things we wanted to do, and you just published, less than a week ago, a great story, and you're like, hey, this is one of the first ones we can share. So just last Friday, we had our first collaboration. We shared our first content together, and very well received. And I can't thank you enough. I'm excited to move forward with you as we continue to share content and share ideas and move forward, collaborating with our audiences together to kind of grow something much bigger in the light.
Yeah, I think it's a great. It does fit like a puzzle piece or fit like a glove because you have obviously a great distribution and manufacturer audience. We have an audience of just that's fragmented as well with some distribution, but also designers and lighting companies and agents. So I think we can cross pollinate a little bit and share kind of like some of the greatest hits from each other, including insights like the ones you gleaned from your recent NAED Eastern Region Conference. So I'm grateful for the partnership, bringing some of your insights to the inside lighting people, and happy to share that with your team as well. And I look forward to crossing paths with you and so many other hundreds of NAED members at the national conference coming up in May in Marco Island as well. So it's going to be an active 2025, Scott Costa, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm excited. Again, I'm excited to work with you. And like you said, being able to reach each other's audience, I think, is going to be fantastic. It's a great agreement. I'm thrilled that you and I are going to be working together.
I'm excited about it too. I wrote on LinkedIn that when I first started publishing, and frankly, Scott, and I think a lot of people know this, I was basically figuring it out as I went along. I'm not a trained journalist or publisher. So I said I wanted to be Scott Costa when I grew up because you have such a professional take on the way you do it. So 5 years later, we're cruising and we're collaborating, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks so much for the collaboration, and thanks so much for joining us for 5 Big Questions, Scott.
My pleasure. I look forward to working with you. And again, have folks, if they have questions for me, have them contact you, get in touch with me. Be glad to help folks out with whatever I can.
How can they find you, Scott Costa?
Easiest way to find me is I end my podcast 2 ways. You can give me a phone call, 314-812-5311. I answer my own phone. It's not that fancy over here at TED Magazine. Or you can send me an email, scosta, SCOSTA @NAED.org. Just send me a note. We'll trade some ideas and go from there.
That's awesome. We'll see you next time, Scott. Thanks so much.
Thank you.